We can do a song and dance while we're waiting if you want to.
Yep. We'll do Kylie Minogue. I'll be Kylie.
Okay. Go ahead. I thought we could do Grease.
Oh yeah.
I got chills. I'm multiplying.
Oh no.
I've decided we are not multidimensional. We are ultra multidimensional. That's what I'm thinking.
Well, you would decide that. You have too much time to think about it.
Okay, so we're going to get started in a second. We are using Zoom, so I can only access the comments on my Facebook page. If anybody's interested in making comments to be seen by myself and our guest, or if you're going to have questions, sometimes we get to them. You can go on my Facebook page and you can put your comments there. I'm going to go ahead and tag you on this, Kirsty.
All right.
Real quick.
Yeah.
All right. Let's see. Oh, there you are. Okay. Good. Done. So you're tagged on that. That should show up on your page. All right. We got a few people. Let's see what we got here. We got 16, 18, 22, 24. We got people coming in. You know, we've been getting suppressed lately. I don't know what's up with that. But if these shows, we went black. Hang on.
What do you mean, like technical problems?
No, they've just not been putting our notifications out when we go live. It happens every now and then. Normally it happens if we've been doing a bunch of shows, which we just got back in town. So we really haven't, done an extraordinary amount, probably 10 or 15. But for whatever reason, the Facebook isn't sending out the notifications and YouTube never does. So normally after about 10 or 15 minutes, the room starts to really fill up. But right now we got about 35 people on all the platforms. Welcome back, Kirsty Elizabeth. It hasn't been but a few weeks since we talked last, but a lot's gone on since then.
Yeah.
How about for you?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It's accelerated. And also for all the, because I pick up information from the people that are wanting to speak to me. Yeah. I get an idea of themes that are working through each month. It's through speaking to different people. It's really interesting.
Yeah. Yeah, Morgan does the same thing. What theme are you getting? What theme did we have in February, and is it still permeating through our essence?
Right.
In other words, is it still kicking our ass?
Right. I'm going to tell you, right? If you think 2021 is tough for all the acceleration, we're only just started. We started a new energy the 1st of March. And it's about to absolutely boom. But 2022 is going to be the one. This is just the sort of step.
This is like the exhibition season.
Yeah.
So what was everything up through 2020? That must have been like junior high, high school, elementary, college, PhD.
I feel that the thing is that we have all changed so much. Physically, mentally, emotionally, it's even things like, like socially, politically.
Yeah.
I'm seeing big health changes in people too.
Yes. Yes.
I think that I don't believe we've had chance yet to find out who we are from where we've been, if you know what I mean. We're still early days, because I feel that the 2021 energy did not start, like I said, until the 1st of March. And I feel that January and February were like a holding port for us to go through. It was such a dark time, and we were all going through, ups and downs, and so many people struggling with not knowing if they had an illness or if they were having ascension symptoms from, one day to the next. But also on the same day, you could be absolutely get up bright and breezy, and then by lunchtime be absolutely awful, knocked down, or the other way around.
I can relate to that. Hey, I was yesterday evening, I was trying to integrate for like the 3rd consecutive day. But I was watching Terrence McKenna. Have you ever heard of him? Terrence McKenna. He was a lot of things. very well studied and very well followed, like Alan Watts, that type of character. But anyway, somebody had told me you need to watch his last interview. Just look up last interview on YouTube. So this was, I think, 1998, and evidently it was his last interview. But anyway, it's about an hour long, but he said something in there. And again, this is 1998. And this is somebody who, like yourself and others, was seeing things way ahead, right? And he said, we are about to get to a point where we are unrecognizable to ourselves. And when you said what you said a minute ago, like we don't really know who we are based on where we've been and what we've done, because it hasn't had time to integrate and manifest. That's what I thought of. So yeah, I get what you're saying. But I think what he was forecasting as what's coming is here. 20.
So this was in the 90s, was it? The late
90s?
Yeah,
late 90s. So, I think the period he was talking about is here now.
God, I wonder if he knew it would get, I remember doing classes way back then and talking to people about this new human or this new era that we were going to be, the way we were going to be. And I remember saying clearly, it won't ever be in my lifetime. I'll never see. And I'm really shocked that I'm seeing it, that it's coming now. This is it now. This is the big turnaround now.
Yeah.
In many ways, it's really exciting, but it's also causing so much turmoil. It's literally turning people's lives upside down. It is like a sand timer being turned, and then suddenly we're all going back the other way. But we're all going inward.
Yeah.
But and as you know, I work with a guide, and everything I say is what he's told me. Right. So if you ask me things he hasn't told me, I can't answer you, because I can only give you Kirsty's ideas. But he's told me that this is like a black hole, we are just falling backwards.
Yeah.
Which is why the beginning of 2020 felt like everything was falling away. But we've got to let go, fall into ourselves.
Yeah. Yeah. Another thing that he was talking about in that video, he was talking about how he was kind of talking about the universe and how, for instance, science doesn't know what occurred before the Big Bang, and how we have these processes of development that we kind of insert into our experience, and then we follow these processes. And he said, basically, when we get to this point, all processes are going to go away, because there is a, in that, method of approaching our experience as a human race, we have put these processes in place thinking that the universe has this order. And he was basically saying, in his own way, I might be messing it up a little bit, but that he had the feeling that the universe actually operates on disorder, because the disorder creates, kind of a higher, or an opportunity for a higher level of alignment, which is the way I see what we've been given, we've been offered.
Well, the only way I can think that we've got this idea that everything's ordered comes from our own heads, doesn't it?
Yes, that was his point. Yeah.
We're perceiving everything as humans.
Yeah.
So this is our trouble, isn't it? We've got to get out. We've said this before. We've got to stop being ourselves and get out of that, get out of our way. We've got to step back. Well,
it's like the mind, even if we elevate and expand and consider ourselves awake or enlightened or whatever, the mind's still there. Like, it's not going away. Like, it's still present. You can call it ego. I don't know what you want to call it, but to me, it sounds like what you're describing and what he was talking about is actually being in a state where there is no process of development. There's just being, basically. And then by virtue of that, everything comes to you, the more you can stay in that space. Do you feel like your mind has quieted down over the last year and a half or so? Because I do.
Well, I just feel that but I've changed so much, and I can hear the old Kirsty.
Oh yeah.
Which I didn't used to. No.
Really?
I can recognize, I can listen to it and think, oh yeah, that old one, it's a habit, it's all habits. And I've realized it's all anxiety. it's all energy going upwards, and the mind trying to work out and put into words. You know, you asked me the current theme, and the big current theme from the guide side, you know, because he comes into the readings, I'm obviously speaking, but his message at the moment is we've got to stop believing that our brain and our mind is ourself, our personality.
Yeah.
And so many people have contacted me. You know, we had this difficult time, the end of February and the last couple of weeks. So many people have contacted me because they're just really struggling. And these are very spiritually enlightened people.
Yeah.
That are contacting me because, you know, they're people that have got businesses where they're teaching others and they're masters. And they've come to me and said, look, I need help. I've dropped. I can't handle all this. And the guide's message has been to them, you've got to go back and be your own tutor almost. You've got to go back to, you know, if you're a master, you start at level 1 when you're training. You've got to take yourself back to the beginning. And this is the message I feel is that we've all got these terrible habits of making a story in our head about everything that goes on, whether we're making a cup of coffee or, you know, whether we're reading some theses on something. You know, our minds are just overworking all the time and always adding in where we've been and what we've experienced as the truth. A lot of what we're seeing at the moment is all this sort of fighting space for what's the truth.
Yeah.
But, you know, it can't all be true.
No.
At the minute we're in this space where we're honouring that if someone's reality is their reality, that's where they are at. But that, I feel, will be, as we look back, that will be part of this era.
We'll be letting go of the external process of development, you know, like the external story.
Yeah.
Like you go from one story and then you pick another one, which is containing that one, or maybe even alternate, but it's bigger and bigger and bigger, but it's still a story. One of the things I noticed too was, you know, I have even since 2011 I've met a lot of people that I knew online, right? And it's been quite an evolution. It's been quite interesting if somebody is conscious of their energy field and their ability to learn to master their frequency or master their field and not get caught up so much in the externalization. But one of the things that came to me in the last few days was the importance of 2 or more souls coming together, which can be like this, or it could be in person, which I think is more powerful. And how it's not about the stories that develop from the meeting and the connection. It's just about the presence of the 2 energies or more being in the same proximity in the energetic field, and code is exchanged without explanation, without beyond the stories. And I think when I hear what you said, to me, like, you know, this is the era, if I had to reword it, you know, I think it's what you're saying is like, this is the era where the story no longer exists, something like that, or no longer dictates, or, you know, something to that effect.
I think we will get to that point. I think we're just, this is what we're seeing. It's sort of, everything's coming out, isn't it? Like some sort of sore, or some sort of, you know, oil or whatever. It's all the poison coming out, and it's showing and it's all messy.
Yeah.
But I feel that once we clear, and the main way to do this is the theory of dropping into the heart and feeling it from the heart, living from the heart, which is a lot more complex than it sounds. But the best way to explain to people the mindfulness practice that we've done back in the, you know, in the last 40 years, this idea of, which has got very popular in the last 5 to 10 years, has only been the very scratching the surface of that, of just getting people to understand that, calm the voice down. Because humans have developed this whole idea that they are the answer, and it's that voice that's the answer.
Which is really strange. Which is really strange, and I agree with you. It's really strange though when you think about the fact that for whatever reason, memory swiped or whatever, when we've looked at ourselves in relation to the entire universe, or say to our star family or elementals or angels, that we've considered ourselves really small. Yet here we are thinking we're the smartest. You know, it's kind of ironic.
That's because we're still looking for the ego all the time, isn't it? We're trying to be somebody, trying to understand
Yeah.
an identity all the time. The way I see the vision of the future, see, my guide said to me a couple of weeks ago that I'm 100 years ahead.
Mm.
And he said to me, if I came into 100 years time and saw people my age, like our age, there would be more like us.
Yeah.
It'll be more. And I remember us having this conversation before, that we're hoping that this big awakening goes mainstream, soon, so we can all go good, but it's still such early days. We've got the masses behind us, and not only that, the spiritual community also is actually at loggerheads with a lot of issues and a lot
Yeah.
of thoughts. We've got to drop down to connect, like you said, getting into space with someone, just connecting with them, and their presence is probably easier, because in this situation we're going to talk,
Yeah.
and so we're going to bounce head area ideas about to each other. This is where I come from, where you come from. But when you're actually sitting with someone, you can feel an energetic presence.
Yeah.
I feel that the way that we move forward is through that connection.
Yeah.
And I've always stated this, I'm true to it, that the good-hearted, kind-hearted people connect, and it's the ordinary people that become the leaders of the way that life works in the future, that take control.
Yeah.
And to start with, that would be things like through consumerism, choices, because the more of us that make certain choices about what we're buying, the more we're controlling what's being produced and what's being farmed and what's being made, things like that.
Mm-hmm.
So it's getting this idea that dropping down into the heart is not some sort of airy fairy hippie woman, doing some sort of floaty exercise. It's actually logical life choices that help the greater good,
Yeah.
and
Conscious,
instead of
conscious.
the selfishness. Yeah.
Yeah. Conscious living. Yeah. And I think too, the other thing I notice about my interactions with people, particularly when you meet them in person, unless it's something like this where you're actually looking at each other's eyes and it's really just two people, but is the intentions that people bring to the table or to a connection or to a meeting. It's not really, to me, that seems to be what I'm picking up on, regardless of what happens and what stories develop. But it's almost like you're talking about, approaching or running everything through the heart. So when you come together, there's already this enhancement that's occurred through the inner work that we've all done over the years, where the intention is more pure. There's less expectation. There's less judgment. There's less agenda. It's just coming together, almost like a hug, and then we share everything, we move on. Now, in that occurrence, on the linear side of it, there's a story develops or two-story develops or opinions develop. And, and that's really, I think, like I said before, when you said that, that's actually pretty cool, right? I mean, if that goes away, it's, and I don't know how you instruct people to do that. I think we just do that through our own self work.
I think they're finding it. People are finding it.
Yeah.
People are finding that through all the things they're hearing that they don't like, because there's been so much, hasn't there, come up that people are finding, well, I'm going to do this my way. And they're going back to the basics of just caring for the people around them and bringing up their own children and family and, in a loving way and a gentle way. And some of the pushing that has caused so much stress in the past is being realized that it's actually really unhealthy.
Yeah.
And people are making healthier choices about lifestyle that affect them on an individual level, and passing that on to others by modeling it or showing others. And I feel this will just grow, and it will just become the norm, and people won't really understand it or see it as a spiritual thing. It will just become society.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
The trouble we're going to have is that we've still got, the power in the world at the moment is still very greedy and
yeah.
dominating.
But to your point about the stories and the narratives, I mean, it's, for instance, today, okay, and this isn't about politics. Everybody knows we're not about politics or anything like that. But today is the day that, you know, there was a school of thought that President Trump would be put back into office, and there was a republic, and it's not a corporation anymore. And maybe these things happen and maybe they don't. But the whole point that I'm trying to make is whether it be the fiat financial system or it be the institutionalized education system or the big pharma and the medical system or even the governmental systems or narratives that, you know, there's white hats or there's a cabal or all this stuff, the narratives themselves, so what's being said to us on many different fronts is not being accepted because it's just not real and it's just not true. And so they're all starting to crumble and fall away. And I see that not just in, you know, like this community. I see this, and I've talked to other people and they've said the same thing on this show, which is they're seeing it with everyone else, you know, people, you know, taking a stand in their own sovereignty in little steps, you know, as these things don't align with their soul anymore.
Yeah.
Quarantines and masks and vaccines and this and everything, you know, I mean,
Yeah.
everybody's different, but I think everybody's being given opportunities to stand in their power. And the other thing that you said, I think that's real important. It makes a lot of sense because we have all been kind of transforming that wounded healer archetype in one way or the other over the years, where we're out there helping the world when we're neglecting ourselves. And like you said, people are starting to pull it in and really focus on themselves and those closest to them, which only makes sense that would then have ripples out into the collective.
Yeah. I've been putting out that March must be a self-care month. And I think particularly for the spiritual community, because we have been through so much. And like I say, it's just starting, and it's like a couple of months' time, we're going to see an accelerated shift of progress, which the spiritual community will be called to make.
Yeah.
So, you know, and I'm being told that the first set of that takes us to the end of 2022. It's like the progress that we make across 2020 to 2022 only starts March.
Yeah.
Because 2020 was about blowing it all up, showing it all.
Yeah.
And January, February was still that energy. But meanwhile, we've got these huge shifts coming in. I mean, I don't know if you've experienced, but we had these energetic storms.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, I know we had real storms as well. I know you were affected by that, but we had also energetic storms, which were really hard to sit through. You know, your nervous system was, you know, shaking, shaking through it. So I don't know if you've had all that going on, but I've had so many men contact me recently. That's been a big theme. The men coming through saying that they are just really struggling with their life, their role, and their life changing, and the knock-on effect it's having with them of one thing sort of gets taken from under them and then it starts to affect on everything else. And I'm having to sort of talk to people about setting themselves back to finding their inner self again. They've realized that everything's outward, everything's focusing on what's out, the attachments they've got to all that they're programmed in to believe is their life. And people are really, although they know about this idea of you go within, people need guidance of what that really is.
Yeah.
It's like they're frightened or they're afraid to let go that far, you know, because we have got to just see, someone like you has been through this sort of thing already, because you've already decided you went off and changed your life and you were homeless for a while, weren't you?
Right.
So if you've experienced that, you've already experienced detaching yourself from the life you were plugged into, the life that you knew. But what we're seeing en masse is so many individuals having that pulled out of them.
Yeah.
And I don't think the globe has ever seen that happen, even though we've had global events like wars and things. I don't think the globe's ever seen the ordinary person really be their reality be so affected.
Yeah. I mean,
As now.
I guess you could look like at the Great Depression, but yeah, you're right. Nothing really approaches what you're talking about. And I think too, what you said about the men. I mean, you're obviously been a practitioner for a long time, and you've been in these circles a long time. And we all know that the feminine energy really, came down and landed a few years ago and has been expanding. But there has been, I'd have to say over the last few months, that you've seen that masculine, the truer masculine uh, energy coming up in men primarily, but women too. You see it. I mean, it's collective. But you brought up a good point, because um, it has caused a lot of stress on the human aspect of men. So, but you are seeing them come out of it. And I think that's a great sign, because that tells me that we're moving closer, if we're not, I don't know what level of degree it is, but we're moving closer to a balance between the feminine and the masculine energy. And that's got to be a great sign. And obviously, just like with the females, there was some pain before the gain, right?
That.
Yeah.
But I believe that this we're in now, that we're just coming into, will be looked back on as like a renaissance. I'm calling it Welcome to the Renaissance. We're just about to hit this huge creative, passionate flame of divine feminine energy that is going to affect people on a personal level, as well as us all en masse. So it will affect things like plans you've got that you'd like for Soulogy, for example, that at the minute are not seeming in place, will suddenly accelerate and things will shift. So I think that even things like, your Soulogy will be in a different space by 6 to 9 months' time. It's been shifted, but that is not the agenda for it to pick.
Right.
Or to pick, the agenda is for the whole planet to have this sense of, like a bloom.
Yeah.
So I feel that we will return to a different space where we will be looking to heart-centered energies to lead how we rebuild the world.
I agree.
So we will be looking at priorities differently. So if all these people en masse have had their lives changed, and many, many people are having to think about their employment, and have had to change their employment or just survive in recent times, the life that they thought was going to be theirs till they retired has not happened. They're having to rethink. As we go through the next few months, the creative energy is going to come in and allow them to have those bursts of inspiration based on the learning that they've done, that they haven't yet recognized, that we just talked about.
Yeah.
Since last September till February just gone, we've had this huge patch of months of inner work. And like you said, all these wounds coming out and hurt, and we'll always have that, but we had it very intensely. Yeah. And together as well, we had it together. If you look back, we can identify the months where we were saying, this is masculine energy, this is feminine, and this is happening like this feels like, we were going through it together. I don't think that's ever been noted before on such a scale.
Yeah. Yeah. I get what you're saying. And what about last month? I mean, what did last month look like in terms of just like the human experience? I mean, in terms of like, having talked to your clients and just yourself and observing the field. I mean, like, are we talking about, how we interact, how we communicate? Are we getting to that level where this heart, running things through the heart, is actually affecting us in the things that we do by second nature, let's just say? Like, like some people had a tendency to, like a lot of empaths, to overgive and deplete their energy by overgiving in the name of love. Yeah. And some people overtaking, right? And I wonder if that is the type of thing that's being affected, because obviously that's a kind of a codependent or imbalanced type of relationship or frequency. That
was very prominent October, November time. That what you just said, the empath.
Right.
All this, it seemed to me that I call them sensitives. The sensitives were really aware of being brought to be made aware, shall we say, of situations that, because, you know, my guide's always saying to me, we're all doing everything to ourselves.
Right.
But we want to look to blame someone else.
Right. Exactly.
So that was very prominent before, in October, November, when we had this time of reviewing our behaviours and how we allow other people to treat us, or what we expect from the world, and all this sort of thing. But January and February has been much more about look at the political stage, look at the world stage, and then see how different it is from you getting on with your own little life and your own good-heartedness,
Right.
and detach from it. And it's caused two effects. It's caused some people to sort of have these awakening where they're aware of what they think is going on in the
Right.
world. But the other people, it's had this fear-based effect where it's actually took all their strength away. And especially I've seen this happen with a lot of men that contacted me. And in particular, that it seems they're all sensitive men too, because they're men that have got healing businesses, which is fascinating, really.
That is fascinating.
But it's just as if they feel vulnerable, is the word I'm going to use. So
Hello. Yes, absolutely. Ding, 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 ding. I've been feeling that, and in the strangest, craziest, most confronting, challenging ways. Weird, freaky, nutty. I mean, but yeah, and I think this is a great sign. Again, but yeah, you know, I get what you're saying, and these things are kind of new, and we're kind of being, you know, we're not just consciously running things more and more through the heart. I believe that the universal pressure itself is contributing to that, right? I mean, it's almost like we're either going to flow with it or be forced to do it anyway. But if I look at like what you're saying, and all these narratives and all these causes and movements and belief systems, I like the way that you put it, because, you know, I could get up every day and ask myself, you know, not where is their heart, where is his heart, where is her heart, where's the government's heart, where's the cabal's heart. I could simply start my day and say, where's my heart? Because that's an all-day job. You know, I don't know of anybody that can clean the whole thing out in 24 hours, much less 24 lives, you know?
Yes, that's what I was going to say to you. Could you relate to that, the fact that men are feeling a vulnerability? Could you relate to that as being the divine feminine actually drawing out something to show them?
Absolutely. Absolutely. And this goes back since I met Morgan, you know, at a conscious level. And particularly if I go back about 2 years, 2021, yeah, about 2 years, we spent 10 months in Hawaii, and I went through massive, um, you know, epiphanies, and gained awareness of my shadows and my blind spots, but it came by virtue of the feminine presenting their story, basically, you know? And so as that happened, then I started to go, okay, wait a minute. I never thought about that. For instance, I had an experience about 10 days ago, or I guess it was a revelation about 10 days ago. So a lot of my core existence, you know, is obviously me, but in my partnership with Morgan, the sacred sexuality, and I don't mean sex, I'm talking about the heart, these connections. Sometimes it's kind of like stereotypical intimacy, and sometimes it's holding hands, and sometimes it's talking or whatever. But what happened was, we were in bed, we connected, and I was told, don't move, don't move. That's a program. Just be there. And all of a sudden I had this huge feeling of vulnerability. Like I was like exposed. And then you know, she started to put her hands on me, and it wasn't in a bad way, but in that moment, I realized what it must be like to be pawed and grabbed. And, you know, so I was able to see, and this is just one example, but I was able to feel what the feminine energy went through, which is half of me, right? So it's been kind of freaky because the world was a patriarchal template. So you got to go do this and do that and do this, and it's a straight line and a horizontal line and and now you've got this energy of the flow of the feminine, which I've learned through her. When I say her, I mean the divine, the mother goddess energy, the divine feminine energy in my partner and myself, and really in the physical incarnation of my own divine feminine. So that makes it a little bit more, there's another frequency involved where I can actually have a conversation with a human and not my guides, where you're like going, okay, did I hear that right? So yeah, I think absolutely that the, however you want to put it, the feminine energy has taken her power, and as a result, something in that whole has had to transform, which could only be the distorted masculine programming in both men and women.
Yeah. So one of the other themes that I've been seeing is the search for purpose, and I'm in two places with it, because I can see that many individuals can be used by higher realms to deliver changes, or make this rebuild of this world, how we're going to move forward, and that they have skills and certain attributes that they could be used. But on the other hand, I have a real strong sense that humans will need to let go of this idea of wanting to be purposeful.
Yeah.
So I feel, like I said, I really feel that if we could live longer, if we could live 200 years, right, and look back, you would see humanity evolve very quickly from maybe even from 6 months ago would be my
Yeah.
starting point. And I
Yeah.
think that at the moment, the spiritual community's service to me is airing everything, every extreme, every point of view, this could be this, could be that. But what will happen eventually is that we'll sit in the center and we will just flow. And that we will look back on that time when all that was discussed, and we will see it as something that was necessary to break out of where we were.
Yeah. I like what you said too about the 200 years from now, looking at even like the last 6 months. I put up a post a couple of days ago. I saw somebody, it was a quote by an author or something. And basically what it said was, it was kind of like an Edgar Cayce type of prophecy, because it was written years ago, or like a Dolores Cannon, like this is what's coming, the first wave, second wave, and all that. And what it said was that we're in a time, or a time will come, which I think is now, where there will be a planetary ascension, which is not that it hasn't occurred before, but that this particular planetary ascension would happen in a space of time that would be hugely concentrated. And I think he used the term like a million years versus a million years of transformation stuffed into this little linear space. And I think that's what you're talking about.
Yeah.
Because if you look at even from 2010, 2012, like the internet was already there, but it just absolutely exploded. And the connections being made, around the world with people and the different groups and cells developing, and the speed of information that we had at our hands. So our ability to learn kind of went back to when we were young, and we learned very fast like a sponge. Not to mention the influence of these young people that they're having on the energetic field with their more aligned DNA and higher frequencies. I mean, so.
Yeah, and I had this conversation with someone the other day. The young generation, I'm talking like 21 and under.
Yeah.
They are going through a lifetime of learning, like you just said, in an accelerated couple of years, 2 or 3 years. I mean, even the young kids, because I'm an ex-teacher, as you know, so kids now have got to understand everything and perceive it all. which they didn't used to do. They just used to go along, you know, but they're not. They're much more aware and trying to soak it in and make an understanding of it. So if they're doing that by the time they're 10 years old, what are they going to be like when they're 50, like where we are now?
Or even 15 or 20,
But they
you
are,
know?
they're going through this accelerated time, and a lot of them, it's very painful.
Yeah.
It's very traumatic, or it's all anxiety or
Yeah.
fear. And that's a sort of vulnerability and things that I can understand going through in little bursts through my life, that I think if I'd have had to go through in one big bang, I think I would have ended up in some sort of hospital. But
Many of us did. You
the
know,
kids seem to be quite understanding that the world's tough, even though they
yeah.
are struggling. They seem
Yeah.
to be ready for it.
Yeah. And at the same time, you know, I think that they're very resilient. They're being supported by the universal energy. In other words, like the education system being disassembled, you know, so many of them being at home, homeschooling, freedom, you know, an energy of freedom and choice. Um, we had an interesting experience about 10 days ago when we were in my hometown during a very catastrophic event. And there's a lot of stuff happening. But one night, me and Morgan and cousins of my generation, so my age or a little younger, and our children. So there was two of my boys, my nephew, who's kind of like an ET. You can definitely see he's just a straight ET. So he's been kind of put over here as being different, right? Now this kid's about 25 years old. Anyway, at one point, Morgan her throat chakra just came out because that's not like Morgan. And she started telling his parents and everyone there that how special he was, that he was a star seed, you know, that he was an indigo, Blu-ray, and how he had come from another planet to transform things in the lineage of this family. And you should have seen this kid and my two sons, you know, who they grew up together, just started beaming. Like, and so we were talking about it afterwards. There was more to it, but we started talking about it afterwards. And she said, well, you know, what happened here is that they actually heard something that made sense to them instead of trying to fit into what they're observing, which makes no sense to them. You know, seeing the parents, you know, do all the things that society says you're supposed to do, and at the end of the day, who's happy? You know, that type of thing. So it's really interesting because I remember 10 years ago, one of the things they told me, and of course they were speaking to me as, you know, to Todd and as, you know, here's Soulogy and go do something with it. And but again, it was really a message I think that applied to many of us and all of us really, which was you're going to bust your ass for about, you know, 10 years. And then the kids are just going to come up, you know, and if you look at it from an energetic standpoint, they're just going to come up and take it and run with it. And you guys' work is over, you know,
Yeah.
and I kind of feel like that's something that we might see.
Well, I can understand that because I was saying that my vision is that the energetic move forward comes from a creative,
Yeah.
inspired, highly intuitive place, which is why I believe we have to clear so many shadows from like the nervous system and the emotional body in the last 6 months, because we needed to be cleaner. So we needed to be finely tuned, because we could, otherwise we're just not hearing or receiving things. But I believe that many people's abilities, the gift sort of thing, are changed, but they have not yet had the chance to see that, and they need the next 6 to 18 months of things to progress, to have those situations that are going to prove to them that they're in a different space emotionally. And these will be the people such as our generation. I believe that we won't have that need to be, what's my purpose, what am I meant to be? Like you're saying, the younger creative flow will come through. They will rebuild from underneath us, you know, a bit more. They're going to rebuild more like they're going to find a completely different way to the world we knew. Our world's very rigid and very structured, the world that we grew up in. It's not the world we made, because that was our generation ahead of us, right? Because
Well,
you know, we're living in a very male structured world, aren't we,
Yeah.
of how everything works.
When you just said that about the kids, I glanced over here at the engineering screen, and we had been exactly 44 minutes and 44 seconds.
Whoa.
So I give a lot of credit and credence to these synchronicities that are occurring, the sequential unfoldment day by day, how things are connected, how you can see the connection. I think that's another thing that's kind of coming in, probably more on an unconscious level, because there's not the five senses involved, but it's becoming more and more palpable. I mean, there's more and more evidence as we go through, our lives and how things fit. And that in itself is enough to make somebody more conscious once they start to see it. And again, kind of drives your focus back, into heart, leading from the heart,
Yeah.
because you see how it affects everyone.
Yeah.
Well, that was weird. That was, why is it every time we do something, we have tech anomalies? It's the energy.
I was going to say that I've really got to focus on the creatives, that they're my moment. That's my vision of how we shift. And they have been highly suppressed since, 2020 has been a very difficult year for most creatives. It's not a coincidence that it's also been a year when sensitives have been asked to clean up their nervous system and their old wounds. Most creative type of people are highly sensitive. Anybody who goes into the theatre business, or the music business, the music industry, or as an artist, they call it a creative temperament, don't they, where they could be lying in bed at 2:00 in the morning, they suddenly jump up and they've got to do their work. They've got to write, or they've got to paint, or they've got to, they work in bursts of energy. So I believe that they're going to have a big influence on the future, the rebuild, which is what I'm calling the Renaissance. And the reason I'm going for Renaissance is because of the beauty that comes through from expressive, creative people, and the way that they're going to put forward their inspired, if you like, channeled, so sort of like given visions, or whatever they however they're sort of motivated. We're going to see them influence the society of the future very, very quickly.
Yeah, I agree.
Music, art, even TV programs, films. The creative people, I believe, have a lot of power coming up over the next 18 months, where they've been very much out of power.
Yeah. Well, that's the feminine energy.
Yeah.
I mean, let's face it, that's the flow. It's not the hard and fast rules of the patriarchal. And the other thing too, which I kind of see happening, for number one, let me just say this: I'm not trying to put my gospel on anybody. I'm just saying what I'm observing, because I think that's really what we all do when we share our experience. But one thing is, you can't force anything. The whole patriarchal is designed on force, competition, aggression, over assertiveness. I mean, everything is like go, 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 like charge the hill, and the feminine energy is, like you said, it goes in spurts. It's going to do it's like a cat. It's going to do what it wants, when it wants, how it wants, whenever it wants. But it's a pure spiritual energy. And I think that's starting. That's what you're talking about. And I agree with you. That's what's going to lead the way. But that, to me, is the feminine energy. And the other thing that I find interesting too is, now that this true masculine energy is coming up, it does have these abilities that the feminine, or characteristics that the feminine doesn't, which is the perfect complement, which is the construction and is the building, and manifesting the dream, putting it into the physical. So that's going to be a nice blend too. But definitely the creative is the key. That's it. That's creation.
Yeah, well, as you're talking, I'm sort of seeing like a wizard vision in my mind. If you're saying like the male builder,
Yes.
manifester.
Yeah.
The trouble that we've had is that recent years have seen the male energy be abused or become warped, which is why we're seeing these political stories, because they're still all living. People that are in politics are all still living in that old male-dominated world. I mean, in the UK at the moment, there's all news about, even the Scottish Parliament, there's all big news about, you know, it looks like everything's going to blow. The system's going to blow, you know, but it doesn't need to blow up. We just need to come in from behind with a more sustainable, healthy, better prioritized way of living individually to make the society move forward. But we're still seeing this structure of people such as you mentioned, Donald Trump, you know, anybody in leadership, it's all set up on masculine identity, really. Whole, even, you know,
it's patriarchal. You know, I mean, it's patriarchal. So with patriarchal, what do you have? You have paranoia, suspicion. The patriarchal is founded on duality and separation, oppression, suppression, superiority, inferiority. So, you know, Morgan told me months ago, as we were, you know, just talking about this, because we do every day, that nothing, because I was told 10 years ago, you know, I'd say, like so many of us, what do I do with all this? And they tell me, you figure it out, which you can relate to that, you know? And then I said, okay, so what do I do? And they said, well, we'll give you this hint. Whatever you do, whatever you create, it can't be anything that's been done before. So everything has to be stripped away. And, you know, I can give you quite a few different examples of that, but she told me months ago that which made a lot of sense to me, because there is a difference between duality and polarity. Duality is this extreme contrast that seems to have, you know, a high level of human emotion involved with the level of these extremities in terms of the contrast. But she said anything founded on duality, any program, any relationship, any government, anything old, anything new, anything founded on even a little bit of duality is not going to last. You know, just because overall there's a collective expansion, ascension, cyclical thing happening that's not going to allow it. It's just not going to allow the old things to stand, which if you look at the what is it, the Greek definition of apocalypse is unveiling. The truth will rise. So none of us are going to get out alive, but we're all going to live forever. You know,
there's a comment a lady put that she felt that being sensitive has always been made out to be a weakness.
Yeah.
And I was going to say to you, you asked me about themes. One of the themes that's been coming through January and February, and the reason that I'm going for this self-care month of March, has been trying to understand the body, the whole body, like lower resonance, like the nervous system, for example, the sense of feeling you around the whole body, instead of this idea of living in the head all the time and everything, you know, believing in Kirsty world sort of thing.
Yeah. Well, it's kind of like they talk about the reality of your the energy field of your heart, right? Like it goes 8 feet in front of you and, you know, to the side and everything. And it's like when I listen to what you're saying, it's like if I walk through my day, I'm identifying with Todd, just the body, but something has changed over the last few months. And I think so. Maybe, for instance, I'm not saying it's going to happen this way, but maybe we're actually going to be walking around in identifying and being, you know, conscious and aware of our full energetic bodies, because we got to have a few. There's got to be a few to that.
If you're thinking of the ascension codes that we've had, the light codes or the whatever, it doesn't matter what you want to call them. The word, it doesn't need a word. It's energy that's come to us. That has come through the nervous system and gone to the body, because everybody's you know, the reason that people are not understanding that is because they're thinking that it's gone into their cells or their DNA, and they don't understand how, but what has happened is the vibrational energy has changed your nervous system's awareness of itself as a body. And that has also changed your abilities to pick up on higher sensitivity. One of the things that I see changing over the next 6 months very rapidly is more and more people becoming highly sensitive. And to start with, that may cause people to sort of not understand and think that they're struggling, because it may give them sensations that they're not used to. But this I'm seeing as part of the evolution of humanity, is the dropping away of head area belief system and the awareness more of the nervous system, the emotional energy that resonates through the whole body. So currently that theme is coming up. As I said, I did mention health was an issue this last month. Health issues are being highlighted to people because they are needing to learn to listen to their body, because the world is teaching them to carry on all the time, to keep going, have this goal, be this, you know, all these, even the celebrity culture that we have is all about be on top all the time, look your best, be amazing, you know. And the truth is that to be more real and more natural as we go forward, which is what I believe we will achieve, we have got to actually feel some more truths resonating deeper down. Now, someone like yourself might find that, oh, well, I've already done that, because you probably have. But the masses of people have not done that.
Right.
You know, and still, like I'm saying, still the spiritual community are struggling, even though they may say all this.
Yeah.
They're still struggling to go away and think about, now, why am I still getting those pains in my elbow or whatever, you know. The body is a vessel for communicating a whole experience, but we have been conditioned to believe that everything's coming through the mind all the time.
Right.
Like I said, we only scratched the surface the last few years of explaining to people to learn about mindfulness as a way of relaxing.
Yeah.
And I believe that everything we've done spiritually in the last 10 to 20 years, such as for fun, like, oh, I go to yoga class. You know, if I go down the road to my mat and I do my yoga every Thursday morning, whatever, you know, oh, I do mindfulness, I do meditation. That stuff was all fun. I do oracle cards, I do crystals, whatever you want to be. Yeah, that was all fun. But now anything you've learned in the spiritual world is coming to be work. It's coming to be real.
Yeah.
It's coming to be in manifesting reality moment to moment. So this is why it seems like a tougher place, because it's just got realer. That's what it's got more strength to it.
It's loud. It's loud and confronting and in your face. And I like what you said too. We've had a couple of people on the show, more than a couple, that have come on specifically, this is a few times, to talk specifically about the nervous system and its relation to, or almost like it's a bridge between the non-physical and physical. And I like what you said about feeling, because if you think about, like, one thing that we're all coming, what you just described, we're all coming into, is the feelings are getting so strong that we can't deny it. Just like you were saying, if you take that further, the body's going to get louder with the pain or discomfort until you take a look at it, right? And so we're starting to go, when you said that, I was just thinking, like, you know, people are starting to go, wow, this just doesn't feel right. I can't explain it, but I don't need to be here, or I don't need to do that, or whatever the case is. But that makes a lot of sense to me, because I try to simplify things for myself, and feeling is a huge word to me. Like, if anything happens during the day, or if I'm perplexed or looking to make a choice, or I go straight to my feeling. How do I feel? And that can take 10 minutes or 2 days. Like, it may not come right away, but eventually it does.
Yeah, so going back to that comment that was said about sensitivity has been made to be a weakness. I remember one particular guy that I've been talking to this last few weeks. He said to me that he was never allowed as a kid to talk about his feelings. He was sort of told off that that's not appropriate. We don't talk about, no, we, and I think a lot of that has existed.
Absolutely, it has.
It definitely exists in the professional world, and it's how in the corporate world, it's how there's so much bullying still, still power control.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
I
Which,
believe,
yeah, I mean, yeah, that's, and again, back to the masculine, because I mean, like that, you were talking about that, I can think of as a little boy or a young teenage boy, I had a couple of things pop in my head when you were saying that, where I went to a parent and wanted to express a feeling and getting shut down. And then, of course, in the business world, the same thing happened, or the lack of integrity that comes from imbalance affecting I'm just saying it myself as an incarnated man, but in both cases what happened was I got rigid. I got rigid and bowed up and became that which I was looking at instead of staying in my own heart.
yeah,
So I think this is the kind of thing that we're starting to see, that being shed by us all, and collectively that having the effect that it would have to make it easier and easier and easier and more visible to see this new divine masculine energy, or not new, but the one that's been hidden, right?
yeah. But from my point of view, as I don't know what you want to call me. I call myself a seer, but I've always seen dead people. It's just part of who I am. Right?
Yeah.
And I remember asking my guide when I was very young why they look, because they look like projections, and they vibrate, right? And he told me very young that when you pass over, the nervous system is the closest thing to the existence of you long term.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I believe there is great potential in humanity for, if we're in touch more with our nervous system and we look after our body better, I think there's all sorts of implications for the evolution of us as spiritual beings, even possibly eventually breaking through of needing to have a physical body.
Yeah. Yeah. That would make sense. And if you look at, or if I look at things I've read and people I've talked to and my own experiences, my own transmissions, right? I've seen that, where, like, for instance, I remember having an experience with that was having a conversation with me, and somehow in the conversation, it came out that this energy was actually a was comprised of many souls that had formed like an energy complex. Some people talk about Ra being like that, the energy of Ra, or the consciousness of Ra, being a compilation of many souls that had journeyed together and had congealed and formed a collective, a collective conscious field. Uh, and obviously, that's also includes the evolution of whatever their physical and even non-physical appearance and, density and all that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
One of the other themes coming through is for people to realize that they're saying to me things like, I don't see things or pick things up, and yet they seem to know things.
That's
And
it.
it's very similar to what you talk about how you and Morgan have that connection.
Yeah.
But it's not just with family members or loved ones. It's just they're picking up the general energy. So if I'm told, my guide will tell me something, and then someone's telling me that's what they're going through.
Yeah.
They are clicking, they're feeling something energetically. So I believe that one of the changes that we're going to see the next 6 to 18 months is not just our sort of physical body and being aware of it, but also things like psychic ability, telepathy, connection, weird coincidences, all that sort of thing, I think will become more prominent with the most sensitive individuals in the next 18 months. But eventually that will be what we're looking at long term. Like I said, my guide said, I'm 100 years ahead.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I think 100 years for the masses to be on board is quite quick from where we are
Absolutely.
now.
If you look at the, like you were saying earlier, if you look at the whole expanse of time, just take even like, I don't know, since the flood, take 10,000 years ago, 10, 15,000 years ago, what's happened here, I can say like from 2012 to now, what's happened in that period is colossal. And this
Yeah.
is just the beginning. If you go back 100 years and look at the industrial revolution in the early part of the 1900s, look at where it went from the early 1900s, and they're making cars and they developed the assembly line to where we're at now. I mean, it's a huge leaps there. So we're a more expanded field now. And
Industrial revolution, because that's how I see that we will be perceived as in the future.
Yeah.
The way we see our reality, our world, is very similar to the industrial revolution energy.
Mm-hmm.
Changes, and the way that we operate and the way that we're in head air and way it's go and build and make, we're breaking that down now, but that's how I feel the future will see us when they look back.
Right.
Similar to that.
Yeah. And that's another thing. I'm watching that Terrence McKenna video. He said the universe, he talked about it in these terms. He goes, the old universe, let's just say Big Bang, at the conception of Big Bang, the old universe is not the same thing as the new universe. He said the old universe, you had all these planets and millions of years went by and there was very little change. It took a long time and da 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 da. So now you have this new universe, which is what we live in. And he was saying basically that everything is novel in the universe, in the present moment, meaning that it's a new place. So there are new opportunities and new creations to be had. And that's why he was saying that it's not like an order, it's almost like a disorder. So I looked at that and I went, wow, that's pretty cool, because I was told by the universe, when I woke up, create your way out. I'd be in New York City with $2 in my pocket and all my luggage, and in the middle of winter and not know what to do. Create your way out. That's what I was always told. Use creativity as a means for navigating this thing. And that's how I kind of took what he was saying about that, things being novel in the present. It's always new. So it's always, and this is a very, very magnified, expanded moment, I think, because there's so much collecting together, like he was saying, the universe is finding its connectivity just like we are. So we're pulling all of these things back in to ourselves. When we go into our heart in every situation, or the situations we do, we're pulling everything into our heart. We're not just running it through our heart, we're pulling everything into our heart. That's oneness.
Yeah. So who's that chap you're talking about? I have to look this up.
Terrence McKenna, TER. He's very well known. He's a lot like Alan Watts, Ram Dass type, but he's got his own flair. He did a lot of plant medicine. His brother's Dennis McKenna. You can find some of his stuff on YouTube as well. It's always good to talk to you. So do you have anything that you want to do, or you want to say, or anything to announce before we get out of here? And also, how do people get in touch with you, and what are you doing online? I don't know if you're doing any sessions online or anything like that.
No, I've been very busy. I've had a lot of readings. I've started to do a few workshops as well, which have been good. And but mostly just keep plodding that message out there of connecting, together, and holding on to the greater hope. Seeing the new vision and realizing that is the only way forward, and that's all done by the ordinary people that we just do it
That's right.
on the heart.
That's right. And it sounds strange to say the ordinary people, but that's how we have to say it to describe what, you know what I mean? Like we have to use these words.
Well, it's not about being in charge of the country. It's not
Yeah,
about being a CEO or a leader. It's about doing your bit
that's right.
to where you are.
That's right. It's so crazy because it's like we tried everything else and here we are being forced or flowed back into
Yeah.
the true I am, you know? I mean, how can you be I am Todd, I am, you know, all the things I, you know, and you know, how can you do that if you're not totally, you know, totally in acceptance of yourself? I don't know. It's been a wild ride. It's going to get wilder, and I think it's going to be I think it's going to be beyond our comprehension. And I like what you're saying about it. Well, it resonates with me how 2021, the rest of 2021, and then going into 2022 are going to be
Yeah, and
just
then
huge periods of
we're on a
transformation.
10-year after that. We go to 2032. There's a 10-year plan after 2022. And the reason you keep saying 2012 is you think about 2012 and the numbers, it's like brackets, 2012 and 2021. Think of the numbers.
Bookends. Yeah, like bookends.
Yeah, yeah.
It's like when they take those pictures, like, you know, this type of picture, and they split it, you know, that someone will take a picture with the camera like of a tree and then they'll split it and make the mirror image. It's like that.
Yeah.
So 2022
It's highly
sounds good.
significant then.
Yeah.
But I'm sure we're all in a completely different space if we look back
Oh man.
where we
It's
thought
good.
we would be now.
Yeah.
And that is going to accelerate. And I think that will happen this year. By mid 2021, you'll look back at February and think, I had no clue I'd be doing this right now in February.
Well, several people have said that, you know, and I'm kind of excited because we've got this Soulogy Fest, our first one ever, the 28th, 29th, and 30th of May, which is right in that period. So to me, that feels like alignment. Yeah, we'll just have to see. I look forward to doing it again in 2021. And I want to thank you for coming on and always being so real. It's always cool talking to you. And yeah, just all blessings to you and yours. And I'll see you the next time.
Thank you very much.
All right, you take care. And we'll be back in 40 minutes with Stephen Popiotek. That'll be interesting too. Bye-bye. Take